help and services that she does and teaching to Tehillim and many other subjects. I'm not looking at your bio because I want to just welcome you and you should start. But you've written several Sfarim, really several books, and gives over Torah through Rebbe Nachman, I'm sure other sources as well. So she'll share with us her information. You can reach out to her. She does weekly Tehillims also that I would love to get onto, and if somehow I haven't yet, with Zocha, I end up seeing the recordings. But I welcome you. Thank you so much for being here all the way from Brooklyn, right? You're in Brooklyn?
I am all the way in Brooklyn. I wish I was with you both, or
my
all
old hometown.
At the right time, we'll get there.
Zlat Hashem, you're going to be here very soon. It's my old hometown. I used to live in Flatbush. You're in Borough Park,
I'm in Borough
right,
Park, actually. I'm in Borough Park.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
thank you. Welcome. Lower your screen a bit so you see your whole face.
Okay, so let's see if I can fix this.
Just a drop. Yeah.
Yeah. How's that?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Sure. So thank you, Karen, first of all, for inviting me. And thank you, Nechama. I caught part of your talk and I want to go back and listen to it. Very beautiful. And I also want to thank Esther Bas Saralea, who is sponsoring the talk on Amalek today. And I want to thank her. She's dedicating it to her birthdays on Purim, but to all Esther's, whether their birthdays are on Purim or not, which I thought was really lovely. So, so thank you so much, Esther. Okay, so I'm going to begin with what else? A story from Rebbe Nachman. And I hope you will bear with me while I read it to you, because I don't want to miss a word. I could give you a little summary. So close your eyes, kick off your shoes, and we'll listen to the story which Rebbe Nachman tells, which is a Purim story. And once you start to hear it, it will become obvious to you. And this story is the story of Kaptzin Pasha. Once there was a court Jew who was very much favored by the Turkish Sultan, more than any of the other ministers of state. The Sultan was very fond of him, more than anyone else in his government. Every day, the Sultan would invite him to his palace to spend time with him. The other royal ministers grew jealous of him and devised plots to denounce him to the Sultan and destroy him. Among the ministers, there was a Pasha named Kaptzin Pasha, who hated this Jew more than anyone else in the government. When he was with the court Jew, he behaved like a close friend, but every day he would devise plots to denounce the Jew before the Sultan. Once the Pasha came to the Jew and began to speak to him. He maliciously told him, "I was with the Sultan, and I heard him say that he is very fond of you. There is, however, one thing that bothers him. Whenever you come to him and speak with him, he can't stand your bad breath. Since he doesn't want to avoid you, this troubles him so much. My advice is that when you come to the Sultan, you should place a perfumed handkerchief over your mouth. This will cover up your bad breath so that it will not disturb the Sultan." In his innocence, the Jew believed him and agreed to follow his advice. The Pasha then went to the Sultan and told him that he had heard the Jew say that he suffers very much, since whenever he speaks to the Sultan, he has to smell the Sultan's bad breath. "Therefore," said the Pasha, "whenever the Jew comes to you, he will place a perfumed handkerchief over his mouth so that he will not smell your breath. And if you don't believe me, this is proof. Tomorrow when the Jew comes, he will have a handkerchief over his mouth." When the Sultan heard this, he became very angry. He said, "I will see if what you are telling me is true. If it is true, I will destroy the Jew." The next day, when the Jew came to the Sultan, he placed the handkerchief over his mouth, just as the Pasha had advised him, since he had believed him. When the Sultan saw this, he understood that the Pasha had been telling the truth. He immediately wrote a note saying, "When the bearer of this note arrives, Throw him immediately into the furnace where all those who are sentenced to death are cast." The Sultan then sealed the letter with his signet and said to the Jew, "Do me a favor and personally deliver this note to the man whose address is written on the envelope." The Jew took the letter and promised the Sultan he would do as he requested, not knowing what was written in the letter. The court Jew was very diligent to keep the commandment to circumcise Jewish children. Whenever he was honored to perform a bris, he would not pay attention to any obstacles, since this commandment was very precious to him. On that very day when he was supposed to deliver the Sultan's letter to the palace, it was sent. God arranged to save his good friend. He made it happen that a man came from a village and honored the court Jew to travel with him to the village to circumcise his son. The custom of the court Jew was not to avoid performing this precept no matter what. He began to think, what will I do to fulfill the Sultan's request that I deliver the letter? Hashem then arranged that he should meet Kaptzin Pasha. The court Jew told the Pasha that he had been with the Sultan and that the Sultan had given him a letter to deliver. But now Hashem had arranged that he could perform a bris, and his custom was not to set aside this mitzvah for any reason whatsoever. Therefore, he asked, "I am asking you to do me a favor. Please, Pasha, if you would, take the letter and deliver it there." Well, the Pasha was very happy this turn of events, since now he would be able to denounce the Jew for not delivering the letter as the Sultan had ordered. He immediately took the letter and delivered it to the one to whom it was addressed. The recipient was the executioner in charge of burning those who had been sentenced to death by the Sultan. He immediately grabbed the Pasha and threw him into the furnace. He was burned as he had been judged by God and was thus punished. Mida keneged mida, measure for measure. The Jew, meanwhile, didn't know anything about this, and the next day when he appeared before the Sultan as if nothing had happened, the Sultan saw him, and he was very surprised. "Didn't you deliver the letter I gave you?" he said. The Jew replied, "Your Majesty, I gave the letter to Kaptzin Pasha to deliver. Hashem gave me the opportunity to perform a circumcision, and my custom is to not pass over this opportunity whenever it presents itself." The Sultan then understood that there was a reason that the Pasha had been burned, and that it was because he had slandered the Jew. The Sultan asked him, "How come you hold a perfumed handkerchief over your mouth when you speak to me?" "Well, the Pasha advised me to," said the Jew. "He told me that he had heard you saying you couldn't stand my breath." The Sultan then told him how the Pasha had slandered the Jew. He said, "The Pasha said you couldn't stand my bad breath, and that you were putting the perfumed handkerchief over your mouth to avoid smelling it." The Sultan then revealed to the Jew the contents of the letter. He said, "Now I know that God has power over the world, and he saved his friend from all evil. What the Pasha wanted to do to you was done to him. He was paid back as he deserved." The Jew was now all the more esteemed by the Sultan, more so than any of his ministers of state. He was very highly esteemed and dear to him. This is a tale that is related to the Megillah. And since we are not at the point of the revelation of the Megillah, even though I've been learning it like crazy for a few weeks because I love Megillah Esther, I wanted to share this tale with you. It is jam-packed. And normally, in my story groups or my writing workshops, we would analyze this tale. But today, let's just focus on a couple of aspects. The first aspect is the court Jew, the unnamed court Jew. Some compare him to Mordechai. Mordechai was, of course, a tzaddik. And we can see that because the court Jew was particularly attached to the mitzvah of bris milah, circumcision, he was also attached to the tzaddik, to the concept of the tzaddik and to the true tzaddikim. Why? The bris milah is a mitzvah that is related or that embodies the sphera of Yesod. Yesod is the foundational sephira of morality, interpersonal morality, okay, holy intimacy. And this is a mitzvah that represents the tzaddik. Hashem says, tzaddik yesod olam, the tzaddik is the foundation of the world. And it's in the merit of this mitzvah, of course others, that the tzaddik reaches his level or has attained his level. So we have this aspect of the story. And of course, I think Nechama touched on this a little bit. This is a bit of a theme within the Megillah as well. Now, let's talk about Kaptzin Pasha, who the Jew, through his attachment to the tzaddik or the mitzvah of circumcision, okay, he vanquished him unknowingly without any effort or awareness on his part, just by being his simple, true self, and by not wavering in that devotion to Hashem and that devotion to his attachment to himself. And because of this Hamanesque, Amalek-esque character was destroyed. What about this character? So he was dishonest. He was jealous. He was greedy. He was, he lied, okay? He manipulated. And if we see the threads of all of these characteristics of him, we can see that all these midos are an expression of a lack of belief that Hashem is in charge of everything and that he is the source of everything. And this is a very significant characteristic of Haman and Amalek. Of course, we're going to talk about this in conceptual terms today. And this characteristic is the sort of undoing of Haman and Amalek. Now, so it's almost Purim, and it's a time of great joy. And I want to remind everyone, it's very important that no matter what we see going on, then a hafoch hu, everything can be and will be overturned in the blink of an eye. Okay, just the blink or the wink of an eye. And of course, that experience we see represented in Purim and the Megillah, and we see this in Rebbe Nachman's really short yet jam-packed tale that's related to this phenomenon. Now, what can we do in order to express this turning of things upside down, this getting to the point where we realize that Hashem is in charge and that, yes, he's got our backs, okay? So in order to do that, we have to banish that Amalek energy. We've got to get rid of it. I think, Nechama, I caught a lot of your talk, but in bits and pieces, because I had a call and I'm sorry, but I think you spoke about this a little bit as well. And what I would like to share with you is what the Midrash tells us, Esther Rabbah tells us, that during these times, okay, today, Haman, Amalek, which is also the concept of Edom and Gog and Magog, they're all going, and we'll throw in Yishmael in there too. It's all one concept, and they're all going to be very busy keeping the Jews, says the Midrash, from observing the Torah and the mitzvahs. Okay, so what does this mean? So first of all, we're speaking about keeping Torah and mitzvahs at a very deep and personal level, where whatever you are holding, whoever you are, know that the intention and the feeling and the connection are very important and precious. And the growth is also important and precious as well. Now, what is Amalek keeping us busy with? So the Midrash says it's keeping us busy with distractions. What are these distractions? So it's interesting. Sometimes they're things that we think are proactive, and sometimes they're not. So I'm going to give you a few. First of all, Amalek can keep us busy with fighting injustices. That sounds so crazy. Shouldn't we fight injustice? So, yes, on the one hand, but we should understand exactly what our personal role is in fighting these injustices. It might be your role is to say one extra parak of Tehillim a day, and that might be your role. Some people's role is political. Some people's role is getting involved in protests. Whatever your role is it's important to know what role is right for you so you're not distracted and getting caught up in this energy. Now, I'll give you a few other things that Amalek is keeping us busy with. Worry, anxiety, paying taxes, okay, because there's material things as well. Competing with each other, jealousy and strife, conflict, worrying about fitting in, whether it's with a kosher culture or a non-Jewish culture, because those standards, of course, they do affect us. Okay. Proving that we are good Jews. People sometimes are very busy proving rather than being. Okay. Something we can all work on. I'll speak to you a little bit about that in a moment, how to work on it. Some people are very busy getting degree upon degree at fancy elite universities. Okay, this can be a big distraction. It can be important. It can be a good tool for you, but it could be a distraction. Focusing on external achievements or status rather than our own or other people's inherent value. Okay, everyone here has such a deep, inherent, precious, good holy neshama. And sometimes we forget that. And we focus on things that we think are expressions of good when they really are distractions. Okay, this is really a getting to know yourself kind of energy here. Now, hold on 1 second. Get my notes, and I have my typed notes, and then I have my horrible handwritten notes. So you'll bear with me. Okay, so we need to know a little more. We know how the symptoms of the malady. Now let's get to know how the malady deeply expresses itself. And I want you to know, you see a big smile on my face. Why? Because the negative stuff that I'm naming or I'm going to name is really in the service of good. Because without this battle, we wouldn't yearn to overcome the obstacle. And Rebbe Nachman teaches us that the falls, the yeridas are for the sake of the aliyah. So we need to be able to identify the falls, the negative, and to not shy away and say, okay, this is a situation, but it's not going to overwhelm us. Okay, so I'm going to mention a few ideas from Breslov and maybe one or two other sources about what the Amalek energy is. So this malady is very much identified with the medame, as Rebbe Nachman says, which is the negative imagination, demionos, which are delusions and illusions, false belief, and confused thoughts. And Reb Nosson explains that Reb Nosson, for those of you, many of you know, but for those of you who don't, he was Reb Rebbe Nachman's leading student and a great scholar and tzaddik in his own right. And he explains that confused thoughts, a lack of clarity, okay, and he's echoing the Rebbe, of course, can often be rooted in this Amalek energy when we're scattered and we're all over the place, or when you're scrolling and looking at things that are disturbing you, okay? And they lodge in your imagination. So we want to protect ourselves from that and gain clarity and gain Yishuv Hadas, gain a little peace of mind. But I'll talk about that soon. Okay, the next expression of this malady is doubt. Now, this is the famous one. Amalek has the same gematria, 240, as Safek, as doubt. Everybody knows that. Okay. And the Amalek that is present, or even omnipresent today, are questions and doubts that everybody has regarding their faith. And the doubts can crop up, okay, momentarily and fade, but they can still disturb us. And this includes the uncertainty, says Rebbe Nachman, the confusion and the troubles we face when we lack proper direction and advice, which is why it's so important to have people who can advise you, or have a safer or two or more that you can turn to when you're struggling. Okay, Rebbe Nachman has a wonderful sefer compiled by Rebbe Nachman called Likutei Eitzos. Okay, it's an anthology of advice, and it's called in English Advice, and the Breslov Research Institute publishes it in English. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. You can thumb through and say, I'm struggling with faith, and then you can find a chapter on how to deal with this. As a matter of fact, Emes and Emunah, Truth and Faith, are the first chapter. Or I'm struggling with anger, or I'm struggling with depression. And there's advice that there's several summaries of advice, and one of them is bound to be meaningful to you in some way. Now, Rebbe Nachman says that with this doubt, it's designed to cause us feelings of hopelessness. So when you look around and you see the mishigas and painful mishigas and the suffering going on in this world and the pressure that we're all under, because I believe, I'm not big on buzzwords, but I believe that every single Jew was traumatized by October 7th. Of course, it depends on how close we were physically and family members and so on. But I think that every single one of us, I haven't met a woman yet who hasn't been kept up at night, at least at some point by this. So this can cause hopelessness. And this is Amalek. It's another trick of Kaptzin Pasha. It's another trick of Haman. It's another trick of the UN. Okay, another trick of this government and that government. Okay. Because it deludes us and confuses us from looking at Hashem. Now, Rebbe Nachman also writes that Amalek is a conflict between husband and wife, and between a person and his community. And anybody who hates, oh God forbid, I don't want to use that word, but that really is Rebbe Nachman's word, a true tzaddik, or anybody who hates another Jew. It's so painful right now. We all have so much achdus, so much achdut, so much unity and togetherness. But Amalek can sneak in there, and he can cause us to question, to doubt, to God forbid, disconnect from each other. Okay. Now, another aspect of Amalek, so we have the medame, dimyonos, the confused thoughts, the negative imagination, the illusions. We have the doubt, which is the lack of Emunah. We have conflict and strife. And now we have false leaders. And this is actually I'm not going to go through all the verses because I think we're a little over time, but this is how the Jewish people, says Rebbe Nachman, have been fooled into thinking that they have great leaders when they don't. They're people too. And so we should support leaders who are doing the right thing for sure, but we shouldn't confuse that with relying on them in the same way we can rely on Hashem. Okay. So this is another aspect of Amalek. And I hope nobody's feeling down about this because I still have a smile on my face because I know what's coming. Okay. So another aspect of this is that if we don't have we don't have leaders with Emunah and B'tachon and wisdom, what do we get? We get a group of people who are easily misled, and they might forget about Hashem too, chas v'shalom. Okay, so we have to be wary of this. This is not picking and nitpicking and pointing fingers. This is being aware of what we lack, all the things we lack, and all the things we have that Amalek takes away from us and gives us at the same time, and being aware so we can just have a checklist. Okay, I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not going to get involved in that conflict. I'm not going to put all my trust in a person, a human being, or a group. Okay, all right. Next, we have forgetfulness. And we actually fulfilled this mitzvah on Shabbos with Pasha Zachor. And that is the mitzvah of canceling out forgetfulness. And that is the mitzvah to remember Amalek, to remember what he did. We must remember it. Now, again, this is a mitzvah. A mitzvah, of course, is a commandment. And a mitzvah is also related to the word tzevet, which is a bond or a join or a braid or a close attachment that's very hard to break. Because when a Jew does a mitzvah, okay, he has a thread going up to Hashem. He either builds it for the first time if it's new, or he strengthens it and adds, let's say a rope, adds more threads to that rope. So his attachment to Hashem with whatever mitzvah grows stronger and stronger, which is why Rebbe Nachman says, don't pick apart your mitzvahs. Don't look at your mitzvahs and say that wasn't so perfect, or I didn't give so wholeheartedly, or I did it in a rush and I wasn't concentrating. Don't worry about it. You did a mitzvah, and next time you'll have more kavanah, or you'll make more time, whatever. Appreciate the fact and praise yourself and take pride in yourself that you recognized that your nakuda tova, your good point, help strengthen you and bring about that bond with Hashem, because your good point inside, your neshama, is yearning to attach to Hashem. So one of the ways we do this is by remembering Amalek. So today, right now, we are all doing this massive mitzvah that we only really do maybe a couple of times a year, is when we read the Pasha, on Purim, Shabbat Zachor. Okay, we don't always get a chance to do this mitzvah. So I thought, hey, let's do it together today. So we have all engaged in a mitzvah, and we're engaging in it as we go through. And forgetfulness, okay, is when we, and this is what Amalek wants us to do. He wants us to forget. He wants us to forget Hashem. He wants us to forget our nakuda tova, our good point inside. He wants us to forget our bond with Hashem and with each other and with the Jewish people, and essentially with the world, because we are very important to the story of the world. Without us, what would be, okay? And so we also want to strengthen our memory. And yeah, ginkgo can help, but the idea is to strengthen your memory, to remind yourself of your connection to Hashem. That's really the memory that's so important, and your connection to the true tzaddikim. Now, part of the mitzvah of remembering Amalek and banishing our forgetfulness is to eradicate, to wipe out Amalek from the earth. That's part of our mitzvah. It sounds so overwhelming. We're not exactly sure who Amalek is in a nation or a body, okay? But we've identified some of the energies that we can eradicate, okay, that we can wipe out, that will be another branch of that mitzvah, okay? Now, what is the final antidote? So there is a three-pronged antidote. There may be more. These are the ones that I chose today, okay? Simcha, Emunah, and Tefilla, okay? Rebbe Nachman says in Likutei Halachos that this negative Amalek energy of any kind is rectified through Simcha. And this is the meaning of Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha, okay? When Adar enters, that the ability to make joy, the joy increases, we increase our joy. It's incumbent upon us to increase our joy. Rebbe Nachman teaches that joy is a choice. Now, for anybody who suffers with sorrow, it doesn't seem like it. But once we work through, over time, all of the rich, wonderful teachings that we have available to us, and once we embrace the idea that Simcha is a necessary part of our service of Hashem, things begin to turn around. Now, at this time, in this age, when we are really on a mission, and the mission is to crush that klipa of Haman Amalek, okay? We have to be supremely joyful, says Rebbe Nachman, because this enables us to overpower all that negative imagination and to straighten out our thoughts. We have to be clear-headed, okay? We feel hopeful. We don't have doubts. We're not staying up at night worried about what's going on or replaying pictures in our minds or conflicts, God forbid. We're clear-headed, and joy is like the elixir of life for this idea of having Yeshuv Hadassah, calm and clear and settled mind, because that's the best way we live. If our thoughts are all muddled and forgetful and filled with doubt, okay, that creates our reality. It adds to it. But if we're clear-headed, our reality is more clear as well. And especially now, ladies, we are all under, every one of us is under, I believe, a lot of emotional pressure. At least I experience it myself and I see it with others. So this is our fight. Okay, this is our fight. This is how we eradicate Amalek. Okay, now, at Purim, we can accomplish with joy, says Rebbe Nachman, which we accomplish in more difficult ways, let's put it that way, throughout the rest of the year. So joy, Simcha, leads to Emunah, and not just Emunah, faith in Hashem, and also bitachon, trust in Hashem, but it leads to Emunah in the power of your Tefillah, okay? When you are joyful, first of all, your Tefillah is more elevated. You can still cry out to Hashem, but you're doing so feeling loved and connected to Hashem. Secondly, the other thing that is so important here is that your Tefillah, okay, becomes it becomes a whole new level of Tefillah when you believe that every word you say counts, which is why Rebbe Nachman encourages us every day to do a prayerful meditation, a talking meditation. He says an hour, but if you start with 60 seconds, that's good. A little bit is also good. And this is called Hitbodedut. Rebbe Nachman didn't invent it. He just repopularized it. And it's talking to Hashem in your own words about whatever is on your mind and in your heart. And every day to set aside 1 minute even of your time to have this beautiful connection with Hashem, where you're speaking your truth. Even if your truth is only, Hashem, help me, I don't even know where to begin. And you say that for your minute or your 2 minutes or your 10 minutes over and over again, that's fine. but to begin a type of tefillah that is coming from within you in a way, you still have to daven from the Siddur, but in a way that davening from the Siddur can't. Okay, now, we all know that Purim is an Eis Ratzon for tefillah. And this is truly, truly the day of tefillah, okay? And it's the day where our prayers are so powerful because not only does Hashem hear our prayers, he always does, but it's the day in which Hashem, there's no judging going on. There's no evaluation. We shouldn't be doing a cheshbon hanefesh necessarily on Purim either. We shouldn't be evaluating ourselves. We are just connecting from a place of pure love. And Hashem wants to give to us from that place. It's called his treasury of unearned gifts. And that is the space from which Hashem gives to you whatever you need, whatever you request from your heart. He gives it to you freely. He opens his hand, as it were, to give you freely. Now, Rebbe Nachman says that Amalek is out to weaken our hearts at the end of exile. And this is the time that the Geula is, it's waiting, it's quivering like jelly on the horizon. It's so much there, it's shimmering, and we can all feel it. And all we need, says Rebbe Nachman, is a few more prayers, just a few, one here, one there. Who knows what's going to tip that balance? It could be your 60 seconds of hitbodedut that tips that balance to good and opens up the pathway for the Geula. So, Simcha, Emunah, and Tefilla, each one interconnected with each other, leading to a beautiful spiral, a holy cycle where you're joyful, your faith increases, you believe in your tefillahs, your tefillahs get stronger, and because of that, your joy increases, and it goes around and around and around, and it works. It really works. So listen, please be joyful on Purim. No matter what situation you find yourselves in, not everybody, okay, has an ideal situation. Most people don't, okay? Things go wrong on Purim. Sometimes people are alone on Purim. Sometimes people aren't feeling well. Sometimes they're struggling to hear the Megillah. It's too noisy. Sometimes the Suda doesn't work out. Sometimes there's a drunk male family members and it's unpleasant sometimes. Whatever it is, okay? Whatever your Purim is, know that that's the Purim that Hashem gave you, and that that's the Purim that has been given to you to take and use the joy and the Emunah and the Tefillah to wipe out Amalek on Purim itself. And we will be willing, God willing, please Hashem, we will be able, God willing, to experience the Geula. Please Hashem, it should come any moment, and to greet Mashiach together with this Emunah and with our joy speedily in our time. So thank you, everyone, for listening to the tale of Kaptzin Pasha. And you are welcome to join me. You can find me at breslovwoman.org. There's a WhatsApp group with daily lessons and various classes and workshops and so on. And you're welcome to just reach out to me and say hello also. And I look forward to hearing good news that we're all going to hear together. Oops, somebody's calling me. Sorry. The phone's buzzing. And I wish you all a freilichen Purim. Chag Purim Sameach.
Thank you so much, Rebbe Chaya, Rivka. So special, everything you said, and you made it so down to earth that we can really apply it to our lives this Purim. So I really appreciate you being here and inspiring us today. This was phenomenal, really phenomenal. Do you have time for a question or two?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay, anybody have a question or comment that they'd like to say, please feel free to unmute yourself. Anyone?
Hi, this is Pamela Peril.
Hi, Pamela. Hi, Pamela.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom and Divrei Torah. I have a question regarding Teshuvah. I'm having a hard time understanding, like if someone, I feel like I need to do Teshuvah, but I'm not understanding how to do it. Am I supposed to do it besimcha? How do you feel remorse and regret? And I'm not sure how to accomplish that. Thank you.
So thank you for your question, Pamela Peril. So I think this is a question that a lot of people have. I will give you my take from Rebbe Nachman's advice, and that is tshuva doesn't look the same for every person. It's a different flavor. He gives us so much advice. Really, all Rebbe Nachman's advice is about doing tshuva. Okay, it's really his Likutei Moharan's a Musar Sefer. We don't see it that way, but it really, really is. And his advice is to get to know yourself so that you know what you need to work on. And the main advice he gives is to know the difference between atzvus, depression, bitter, heavy depression weighing on you, crushing you, and a broken heart. Okay, a lev nishbar. Because we should go to Hashem to the best of our ability. You may have to work through some anguish, but we should go to Hashem with a broken heart. And the difference is that when we do tshuva from guilt and hopelessness and despair, it's very hard to find joy afterwards. It still feels like it's weighing us down. But when we cry out to Hashem, and again, it's a great time for this, okay? When we cry out to Hashem and we say, look, Hashem, say, everything I've done, I'm ashamed, I'm afraid of what I've done, I have all these mixed emotions, but what I'm really feeling, and you have to connect with this feeling, what I'm really feeling is the distance that I put between me and you. And I want to repair that distance. I want to come close to you. I feel removed from you. Remember, I spoke about the bonds, the bonds that we do of the mitzvah. So you feel like the bond is frayed or chas v'shalom, broken, chas v'shalom. Okay. So the idea isn't to be overcome with toxic shame, but to be overcome with healthy shame. In Judaism, there's a healthy shame, and that is the shame of this broken relationship, and you want to repair it. And Rebbe Nachman says, if you believe you can destroy, believe you can repair. Okay? If you believe you've done things that you need to do tshuva for, believe that Hashem is giving you the tools to repair. You know, this is the defining difference between the Torah and any other belief system on the planet is we believe we can do the hard work to get back to a place that's even better and stronger than it was before with Hashem. And we can do this ourselves. So I hope that answered your question. I'm doing it in a nutshell because it's a big question, or I hope it gave you some food for thought. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, so I think Karen, I think we're good, yeah? Okay. All right. So I want to thank you again for inviting me. I enjoyed it, and I'm so glad to see so many of the women from the Breslov Woman Group here. Thank you for coming, and I enjoyed your talk, Nechama, and I want to go back and listen to it. And I guess I'm done for the day here, but I'll wait till you say.
How can they get in touch with you? Do you want to put your email or phone number on?
Sure, you can get into. I'll type it into the chat and make it very easy.
I I just posted your YouTube channel and the WhatsApp, the
Thank you.
website. And it's Hashem, you can see a lot more of her videos, Robertson's videos on YouTube. So there's our channel. If you can copy it, so you can.
And that's my phone number. Feel free to text me. If you call me, I might not pick up unless like I'm prepared for a phone call, but welcome to text me and set up a phone call. It's fine. Okay.
Thank you so much.
I need to say something because I just got this text that's important. It says from Ambassador Friedman, urgent tefillah is needed. Rav Dov Cook Shlita asked everyone could please stop what they are doing now and say the following parakim. This is a serious situation going on right now. They found hostages and are fighting neck to neck. That's what the text I got.
I got that earlier. I think it begins with 120, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
120,
So-
121.
We start the Tehillim at the beginning of the Zoom, but what were the Tehillim that were requested?
120, 121, 37, 83, 124, 144, and 150.
Okay, so Baruch Hashem, we usually say most of those. If anybody wants to stay on, we will say more Tehillim.
I do have to go. I'm running
No,
a
it's
little
fine,
late.
Rebbe team.
Sorry.
No,
And
it's
thank
fine.
you again, and thank you everyone, and
you.
all the best. All the best. Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for being here.
My
And thank